trying to get my camera set up here. Alright, we are live, ladies and germs. I restarted my computer. And it looks like OBS is fine again, so there's that. As the cat wants to get in the freaking camera. And it is raining very heavily here in my neck of the woods, so that's probably what you're hearing right now. As well as some little shitties. But now we're going to get into the third episode of The Fuel today. Which is, oh shit. I should have had it on the opening shot. God, I am so discombobulated. Fuck. Well, what a start to this review, huh? Lord have mercy. But we are going to be getting into the Spanish Grand Prix and what happened, and what was a fairly interesting little bit of strategy calling during this race. So let's get into it. This is The Fuel. Alright, what's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packer Man, and welcome to our third edition of The Fuel here today on this May 9th, 2021. Where for this edition, we are going to be reviewing the Formula One Spanish Grand Prix. Give me 1 second here. Get my notes ready. So this is episode number 85 of The Fuel. Title of this review, Brilliant Mercedes Strategy, and that's basically what it was. Because Mercedes, the Mercedes team pulled one hell of a strategy call midway through this race that completely caught Red Bull off guard and essentially led to Lewis Hamilton getting the win. Not only was it Lewis Hamilton's 98th career Formula One victory, which places him just 2 away from the legendary Centurion victory, but he became a Centurion in another statistic, and that is pole positions. This weekend saw him earn his 100th career F1 pole. The first man in history to pull off that feat, which is just unbelievable. Formula One has been around for more than 70 years, but its first official season of competition, the World Drivers' Championship, didn't start until 1950. So in its 72nd season, Lewis Hamilton finally becomes the first to crack the 100 barrier in career poles. And it probably won't be very much longer before he hits that mark in career wins, which would be absolutely legendary. And as per the usual, in all 4 races this year, it's been Red Bull versus Mercedes. More specifically, Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen. It's basically been those two fighting it out at the front of the field. And so far, it is Lewis Hamilton 3, Verstappen 1. But they're keeping things close as far as the championship is concerned in that regard. So, while Hamilton holds the advantage in the point standings right now, Verstappen has finished second in all the other rounds. So they've either been 1 or 2 in the first 4 races of this season. And also another statistic that was brought up, which is also a Formula One record. For the 16th time, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and Valtteri Bottas were all on the podium together for the 16th time, which is an F1 record. Another F1 record is that this is the 4th consecutive time they've been on the podium together in the Spanish Grand Prix. And this is also Hamilton's 5th consecutive victory in the Spanish Grand Prix, which ties him for the most all-time in a single Grand Prix with the great Ayrton Senna, who won 5 consecutive Monaco GPs, which coincidentally is the next race. The thing about the Monaco Grand Prix this year is that it's not going to be on the same day as the other two, the Indianapolis 500 and the Cook 600 this year. It's actually going to be taking place a week earlier, which is kind of interesting. So we're not going to see the, Super Memorial Day weekend this year, which is unusual, to say the least. But yeah, this was basically, you know, Red Bull versus Mercedes. And as far as the race itself is concerned, I mean, it definitely had some interesting points at the beginning and at the end. The middle portion of it, though, was kind of things kind of settled down and not much really happened during the middle portion. But the beginning and the end was when things were really, really interesting during this race. So let's go ahead and get into it. So 2021 Spanish Grand Prix, 66 laps for this one. Hamilton starts from his 100th pole, but Verstappen had a little bit better reaction time and actually managed to take the lead in turn one. It looked like he bumped Lewis out of the way, but it turned out there was no contact between them. Hamilton just basically conceded the position to him. So the top three after lap one were Verstappen, Hamilton, and Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Ferrari definitely looking a lot better this year than in the past couple seasons. DRS was enabled on lap 4. Pierre Gasly was under FIA investigation for being out of position on the start, and you could clearly see it on the replay. I guess they also saw that on their telemetry and stuff. So, but you could clearly see that he was a little bit past his box, which is a violation. Leclerc about 7 seconds back from the top two on lap 7. Yuki Tsunoda comes to a stop in turn 10, reports that he has no power. So evidently it was some kind of an electrical problem, which puts Tsunoda out of the race early on. So we had our one and only safety car on lap 9. So both Williams cars come in for fresh mediums. Verstappen leads on the restart on lap 11. Stroll gets by Alonso for 10th, moving him into the points. And it was at this point that Gasly would be hit with a 5-second time penalty for being out of position on the start, which he would have to serve on a pit stop. Basically pull into his stall, wait 5 seconds, then do service and leave. That's basically how that does. DRS is re-enabled on lap 13. At this point, Hamilton and Verstappen had about a 1 second gap between them, and it kind of stayed that way for about the next 10 laps. Pit stops began en masse on lap 22. Hamilton gets to within a second of Verstappen, basically getting into DRS range, but then Verstappen pits. But Verstappen takes 4 seconds for him to complete the stop, which is typically about twice as long as it should have been. Hamilton stays out, though, and pits from the lead on lap 29, giving him slightly fresher medium tires. But this allows Verstappen to cycle back with the lead. And we were kind of, at first I was kind of wondering, man, why would they keep him out so long, considering that at this track it was pretty tough to pass. I was looking at the YouTube screen and it looked like it was kind of stumbling a little bit. To cycle back with the lead, real quick. And pits from the lead on lap 29, giving him slightly fresher medium tires. But this allows Verstappen to cycle back with the lead. Okay, the picture's stumbling, but the sound at first, I was kind of wondering, man, why would they says YouTube is so not long, considering that enough video. At this track, it was pretty tough to pass. As my fucking YouTube. Lord have mercy. Alright, so where was I? Let's continue on. So where was I? Oh yeah, so Verstappen cycled back with the lead. And considering that how it was pretty difficult to pass at this particular racetrack, so I was kind of wondering what Hamilton was kind of thinking there, or Mercedes in particular was thinking there. Ricciardo gets by Kimi Räikkönen for 5th. Räikkönen had not yet made his pit stop. Hamilton was setting fastest laps and was quickly catching Verstappen for the race lead. Hamilton gets into DRS range of Verstappen on lap 34. Norris gets by Räikkönen for 9th. Hamilton, then here was the thing that really threw me for a loop, and I think it threw everyone for a loop, including Red Bull. Hamilton comes in on lap 43 for a different set of medium tires. These were scuffed mediums. that they put on, but they were basically fresher than the ones that Verstappen had by about 12 laps. And at first I was kind of like, okay. But Verstappen and Red Bull decided to play the long game, try to go on the one-stopper. So we would wait and see how this turned out. Sergio Perez gets by Ricciardo for 5th into turn 1. So he's up into the top 5. Ricciardo and Sainz pits for tires on lap 47. You have the two McLarens and the Ferrari of Sainz fighting for 7th. Black and white flag was shown for Lando Norris. It was probably for the move to the inside to defend against Sainz. He kind of did it a little bit late going into turn 1, and typically the FIA doesn't really like it when you do that because that could cause accidents. Hamilton gets by Bottas for 2nd, and he's 11 seconds behind with 14 laps to go. Now, note when he came out on the new medium tires, well, I shouldn't say new, the scuffed mediums, he was about 23 seconds back. So, with 14 laps remaining, he's 11 seconds back. So, he was setting very quick lap times. Sainz gets by Ocon for 7th. Bottas pits for soft tires on lap 54, which drops him to 4th. But then Bottas retakes 3rd from Leclerc into turn 1 on lap 57, so about 9 laps to go. And then Hamilton is now just 3 seconds back with 9 laps to go. And right as another thing that kind of happened, right as Hamilton came in for his tires that caught Red Bull out, Verstappen was like, man, Hungaroring 2019 all over again, referring to something very similar that happened 2 years prior at the Hungarian Grand Prix, where Hamilton did the exact same thing, come in for fresh mediums, and ran down Verstappen and took the lead away and the win. So, very similar circumstances here. Perez comes in for soft tires to try to get the fastest lap, and so does Leclerc. And then Hamilton makes the move on Verstappen into turn 1 to take the race lead away for our one and only pure lead change of the day. But coming with 7 laps remaining. So, great stuff right there. Verstappen basically admitting defeat because at that point, I mean, he was much slower than Hamilton. And he was not going to catch him at that point. He pits for fresh soft tires to go for the fastest lap, which gives him an extra bonus point. Bottas was stuck in a soup of lap cars, which were fighting for the 10th spot in the points. The 10th spot to get into the points. Perez sits fastest lap with 5 to go. Norris gets by Ocon for 8th, but then Stroll gets by Alonso for 10th and into the points, but the incident between the two the lap before was under investigation by the FIA, but evidently nothing came of it. Gasly gets by Stroll for 10th, and that was pretty much it. Lewis Hamilton wins the Spanish Grand Prix, his 98th career F1 victory. Verstappen and Bottas round out the podium, with Verstappen taking the fastest lap, so he does get that 1 bonus point. And it was just excellent strategy by Mercedes to take the win. And just to prove how quick the two were, only 7 cars finished on the lead lap at the end of this race. That's how fast the Red Bulls and the Mercedes cars are right now. Just unbelievable. So there were 4 overall lead changes in this race, which is the most of the season so far. 1 pure lead change, and only 1 safety car this time around. None for accidents, though. So there were no accidents in this race whatsoever. The only safety car was for Yuki Tsunoda's electrical failure. And that was pretty much it. So, here are your race results for the Spanish Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton, of course, with the victory. He won officially by 15.841 seconds over Max Verstappen, who got the fastest lap. Valtteri Bottas in 3rd for Mercedes. Ferrari of Charles Leclerc coming home in 4th. He started 4th, finished 4th, so good job by him. Sergio Perez in the 2nd Red Bull in 5th, and then the rest of the top 10, Daniel Ricciardo for McLaren, Carlos Sainz for Ferrari, Lando Norris for McLaren, Carlos Sainz was the last one on the lead lap. And then finishing one lap down was Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon, and Pierre Gasly, who had to fight back from the penalty himself, considering that he had a 5-second stop penalty for an improper start. So, driver standings. 4 races down, 19 to go. Lewis Hamilton now has a 14-point edge over Max Verstappen. It's going to be between those two all season long, I think. Valtteri Bottas moves up into 3rd past Lando Norris in the McLaren. Charles Leclerc in 5th as we get ready to head to his home Grand Prix, Monaco. Rest of the top 10 in points: Sergio Perez in 6th, Daniel Ricciardo 7th, Carlos Sainz in 8th, Esteban Ocon in 9th, and Pierre Gasly rounds out the top 10 with 8 championship points. Constructor standings. Mercedes, of course, leads the way. They now have a 29-point bulge over Red Bull. And you have McLaren in 3rd with 65 points, Ferrari in 4th with 60 points. And then it's a pretty big gap to the other teams. Alpine Renault in 5th, but only has 15 points. Then you have AlphaTauri with 10 points, Aston Martin with 5, and then at the bottom of the rankings is Alfa Romeo, Williams, and Haas. All 3 teams yet to score points this season. As for my final rating for the Spanish Grand Prix, kind of a middle-of-the-road race, I feel. No accidents, which is good. And one thing I do like about Formula One Grand Prix is that they go by relatively quickly. They usually only last about an hour and a half, and I like races like that where it's like nice and clean and quick, and it lasts like 3 or 4 hours, and then you feel like if something happens at the end, you don't feel like you got cheated out of all your time, which is what happens with NASCAR a lot of times, but that's just the way it is. But overall, this was an okay Formula One Grand Prix. Got a little boring in the middle portion of it, but the strategy call with Mercedes was just absolutely brilliant. And I was like, man, this is going to be pretty interesting near the end of this race. And he pulled off, and Lewis Hamilton pulled off the pass for the lead and the win with 7 laps to go. So, I mean, you can't get much better than that. So, my final rating for the Spanish Grand Prix, I'll give it a 5. So, a 5 out of 10. Kind of a middle-of-the-road Grand Prix. But congratulations to Lewis Hamilton on his 100th career pole and his 98th career win. Like I said before, just 2 wins away from becoming a Centurion in career wins. But that is going to do it for this edition of The Fuel, the 3rd one of the day. Mainly because I had to catch up on the other 2 Grand Prix, the first 2. And I did that early this morning before the Spanish Grand Prix got underway. But later on tonight, will be the 4th and final review of the day, and that's the Goodyear 400 for the NASCAR Cup Series at Darlington. So while it's pouring rain here in my neck of the woods, it's supposed to be clean and clear for the Cup Series today at Darlington. So I'll bring you that review probably somewhere around 8-9 p.m.-ish, which is usually how it is. I usually wait until after tech inspection is complete before going through the whole gist in that one. So see what happens today, and hopefully this race doesn't have any of the stupid shit that the previous race did. So there you go. But that's going to do it for this edition of The Fuel. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the Packer Man signing out. See you later.
Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you rats!